Welcome, brave insomniac, and congratulations. You've just time-traveled to the year 120 CE, deep in the heart of the Roman Empire, under the watchful marble-eyed gaze of Emperor Hadrian. It's not a glamorous imperial tour, though. No Colosseum games, no villa parties, no togas rippling in the sea breeze as you sip imported wine and whisper about the Senate. No, you are a very average Roman. Dirt under your nails, sweat in places that shouldn't sweat. You live in a crowded tenement in a district that smells faintly of boiled cabbage and slowly dying leather. And worst of all, it's August. In the Roman climate, that means one thing: relentless, God-forsaken heat. So dim the lights, adjust your straw pillow, and prepare to spend a full day surviving as a low-level Roman peasant mid-heatwave. Let's begin with Chapter 1. You wake to the sound of flies buzzing aggressively around your ears. The air is thick, like breathing through wool soaked in vinegar. Somewhere in the room, a chicken wheezes. It is not your chicken. You lie on a mildewed straw mattress, stuffed with old hay and whatever else your landlord deemed appropriate for a human body to sleep on. The sack was once sewn shut, but mice chewed through the side, and now it puffs out like a fungal loaf. You're lying on the floor of a multi-family Roman insula, 4 stories up, no plumbing, no privacy, and exactly one window the size of a dinner plate, which was, by the way, probably made of bronze or clay, not glass. The window does not open. Outside, a donkey brays at the sun, which has been mercilessly baking your apartment since dawn. You roll over, instantly regretting it. Your tunic, crusted in last week's sweat and yesterday's dinner, clings to you like betrayal. Beside you, your cousin snores loudly. On your other side, a stranger, a traveling basket weaver, allegedly. He showed up 2 nights ago and no one had the energy to make him leave. You sit up and immediately bonk your head on a splintered ceiling beam, cursing the builders, likely enslaved, who slapped this structure together in under a week. You'd open a window if you could. But the Roman poor don't have glass, or airflow, or rights really. So instead you breathe in a cocktail of warm goat urine, grilled onions and neighbor's foot fungus, the flavors of the eternal city, aged to perfection. Your tongue is dry, your lips are cracked, and your left foot is suspiciously swollen. Probably from the rat that bit you last night. It made eye contact. You're awake, you're already sweating, and it's only going to get worse. Let's begin your morning ritual. You shuffle over to the basin. Calling it a basin is generous. It's a cracked ceramic bowl that may once have been used for olives, vomit, or both. It now holds yesterday's rinse water, lukewarm and clouded with mysterious floaters. You splash it on your face anyway. The water is thick. It smells like metal and regret. There's no soap, of course, unless you count crushed laurel leaves, which sting your eyes and do almost nothing for the smell you've developed over the past 3 days. There's no mirror. If you want to see your reflection, you'd need to wait for someone to pour wine into a bronze tray and catch your image rippling next to a cockroach. You're not in the mood. Your teeth, you rub them with a twig. Chew the end to make it fray. This is your toothbrush now. Mint? No. Charcoal and vinegar, if you're rich. You are not rich. You are deeply, profoundly poor. To freshen your breath, you might chew on parsley or a stick, or just pray your conversation partner passes out before noticing. If you're wondering about deodorant, no one is. The gods gave you armpits, and the gods can take them away. Until then, you will marinate. You're done washing. You're not clean, you're just damp and emotionally defeated. Welcome to hygiene. Your insula, or apartment building, is a fire hazard held together by debt and despair. 4 stories tall, made of cheap timber, cracked stone, and hope. Your upstairs neighbors stomp like centurions and their toddler hasn't blinked in 3 hours. Someone keeps cooking fermented fish in the hallway. That someone is also you. The walls are thin enough to eavesdrop on your neighbor's dreams, but thick enough to trap the heat like a Roman oven. Insulation? Never heard of her. The roof leaks when it rains and sweats when it doesn't. Your floor is mostly straw, dirt, and pulverized bones of what may have once been furniture. Beneath your cot lives a family of fleas you've named out of sheer resignation. They bite. You itch. It's a relationship. Lice? Of course. You don't have a comb, you have fingernails and a prayer. Most people shave their heads to avoid infestation. You don't, because vanity is your last remaining trait. That, and the rash creeping across your shoulder blade. Your latrine is down the alley, shared with 60 other people. It's essentially a communal hole, constantly buzzing with flies and existential dread. At least once a week, someone falls in. You step carefully. The smell? Historical. Something between sour wine, rotting grain, and boiled socks. The kind of stench that gets stuck in your personality. Home. Sweet, festering home. You're hungry. That's unfortunate. You root through the pantry, a clay shelf with a single cracked loaf of barley bread. It's stale enough to cause dental trauma. You gnaw anyway, soaking it in weak, sour wine to soften the blow to your molars. No eggs, no cheese, no fruit, no coffee, just bread. And if you're lucky, maybe some olive paste that expired during Tiberius's reign. This is called the entaculum, a Roman breakfast. It's not supposed to satisfy you. It's supposed to remind you that you're still alive and that you will have to work for real food later. Spoiler, that food will also disappoint you. The wine is technically water, but fortified. Because Roman water is homicidal, public aqueducts carry water all over the city, but by the time it reaches you, it's been through enough lead pipes to pickle your internal organs. That's assuming it wasn't already contaminated by something floating in the Tiber, like a senator. So you drink wine, not to get drunk, just to survive. You finish chewing your bread and try not to think about the tiny maggot you swallowed mid-bite. Protein. Probably. You don't feel better. You feel full of regret. That's breakfast. You own one outfit. It is a wool tunic dyed the color of disappointment. It itches, it chafes, it smells like last week's funeral and this morning's sweat. You step into it like it's a punishment from Jupiter. Underwear? No. You cinch a rope around your waist, your belt. It holds the fabric together and reminds you that pants will not be invented for several centuries. You reach for your sandals, or what's left of them. Worn leather straps, smooth soles, and an ankle blister that now has its own zip code. Fashion? No. Function? Also no. But nudity is frowned upon and sunburn is aggressive, so you wrap yourself in your personal sauna and head out. Before you leave, you pat your linen cloak, your only form of weather protection. It's slightly moldy. You wear it anyway. Looking good. In the Roman Empire, that's not a compliment. It's a death sentence from the gods of vanity. You step outside and immediately regret everything. The sun hits you like a debt collector. Your skin begins to sweat and burn simultaneously. You adjust your tunic, which does nothing. Your job? Manual labor. The Roman dream. Today you're hauling bricks for an ambitious noble's bathhouse, a man who will never acknowledge you, pay you well, or remember your name. You join a crew of equally miserable workers, most of whom are just grateful to not be enslaved. A low bar. A common one. You lift, you carry, you sweat, you listen to your foreman yell Latin obscenities at a goat that wandered into the sight again. There are no breaks, unless you count the one your spine is currently developing. You eat lunch standing, you drink hot wine, you pee behind an olive tree and hope the bees don't attack you again. By mid-afternoon, your feet are boiled, your hands are bleeding, and your soul has left your body to avoid heat stroke. You push on. Because if you don't, someone else will, and that someone might be your cousin, who already resents you for stealing his fig last Tuesday. Work ends when the sun dies. You don't cheer. You just stop moving. You're not feeling well. Maybe it's the heat, maybe it's the wine, maybe it's the rat bite that keeps changing color. You visit a medicus, which is Latin for man with herbs and guesses. His clinic is a wooden stool, a dull knife, and a shelf full of dusty jars labeled with things like wolf's tongue, mummy powder, and God's will. He checks your pulse by grabbing your wrist and looking meaningfully at the ceiling. He then declares that your humors are unbalanced. A polite way of saying you're full of the wrong invisible fluids. The cure? Bloodletting, of course. Or maybe a hot poultice made from garlic, ashes, and hope. Or, worst of all, he might call in the barber, who doubles as a surgeon and triples as your neighbor's gambling partner. If your tooth hurts, congratulations. You're about to be held down while someone rips it out with iron tongs, with zero anesthetic and plenty of inspirational yelling. If your fever gets worse, that means the gods are angry. They'll send a priest to whisper to your forehead and wave incense in your direction. You'll still die, but at least you'll die vaguely fragrant. Medicine in Rome, where the cure hurts more than the disease, and the disease always wins. It's dinner time. You sit on a cracked stool next to a cracked wall, holding a cracked bowl full of what can only be described as legally edible. It's called pulse, a barley porridge so bland it makes water look flavorful. You stir it with a splintered stick, avoiding the crunchy bits. You think it's gravel, or rat teeth, or history. Sometimes there's lentils, sometimes cabbage, sometimes a small fish head that stares at you like it knows something. Meat? Rare. Expensive, often goat adjacent. Cheese? Soft, sour, and made in someone's windowsill. Dessert? Not unless you consider slightly less gritty bread a treat. You drink more wine. Of course you do. It's warm and tastes like it was filtered through a sandal, but at least it doesn't scream on the way down. You eat in silence. Your stomach gurgles. You pray the bathroom line is short tonight. After dinner, it's time to worship, or at least pretend convincingly. You pass a shrine to Jupiter on your way to the temple, bowing slightly so the neighbor's wife doesn't accuse you of atheism. Again, the streets are quiet, but judgmental. Religion in Rome isn't a private matter. It's state-sponsored performance art, complete with animal sacrifice and political undertones. Your local priest knows your family. He knows you skipped the Saturnalia parade last year. He knows what you muttered after dropping that amphora. He keeps notes. You stand in a temple that smells like wax, blood, and civic pressure, mumbling the same 3 Latin phrases you've mumbled every evening since puberty. If you mess up the ritual, the gods might curse the entire city block. Or maybe just your cousin's fig tree. Either way, someone will blame you. You offer a copper coin you couldn't afford and back out slowly. Eye contact with the marble gods is discouraged. They always look disappointed. The sun has been up since before you were. It doesn't rise. It erupts, turning your entire insula into a convection oven. The bricks sweat. The walls glow. The air hums with heat and mosquitoes. You tried fanning yourself earlier. The fan caught fire. There's no shade unless you lie under a donkey. And even then it kicks. You can't remove your tunic, because public nudity is illegal, and your pasty Roman thighs haven't seen daylight since you were born. If it rains, the city floods. If it doesn't, the cisterns dry up. You're either muddy, sweaty, or on fire. The seasons are just degrees of suffering. Winter, wet, moldy, and full of coughs that echo forever. Summer, dry, dusty, and so hot that the gods stop answering prayers after noon. Climate control? Yes, it's called death. You try not to think about it, but everyone dies young. Your neighbor coughed on you yesterday. Now you're wondering if your spleen's about to liquefy. There's no germ theory, just curses, bad smells, and divine punishment. That sore on your leg? It could be infected. It could be nothing. It could be your ticket to the underworld. Funerals are quick. Bodies are burned. Ashes are stored in cheap urns or dumped in pits. Ghosts are common, or at least the idea of them is. People hang amulets, sprinkle salt, carve curses into lead tablets. You dream about dying often, sometimes from disease, sometimes from falling off a roof, sometimes from slipping into the latrine. No one here lives long enough to retire. No one here retires. You work until your heart stops, or your lungs fail, or your appendix turns on you like a traitor. When you die, your cousin will take your sandals. The sun is finally gone. You lie on your cot, same sweat-soaked tunic, same itchy mat, same ceiling spider that's grown 3 times its size since morning. The room is dark, but not quiet. You hear snoring, rats, a baby crying, a drunk singing in Latin, and someone downstairs arguing about olives. Again. You scratch at a bite. You try to breathe through your mouth. You turn over and hit your cousin in the face. He deserves it. You close your eyes and try to remember a time when life wasn't a combination of heat stroke, bad wine, and public defecation. Sleep, so does the realization that tomorrow is exactly the same. You made it. 1 full day in the Roman Empire. You survived the heat, the food, the work, the plague, and the plumbing. You are sweaty, you are itchy, you are probably cursed, but you are also asleep, hopefully. And if not, there's always the Middle Ages. Good night, brave time traveler.